Welcome to Rhythm of Previews, where we check out the preview chapters of Rhythm of War, the fourth Stormlight Archive novel. I am Danielle with 17th Shard, also known as Fell Candy.
And I'm Marvin, also known as Pelio.
Hi. So, this week, Tor released Chapter 7. If you've missed our preview episodes and want to catch up, you can find them all in the description box below.
I did put them in the description. I did. I put them there.
Good. That's good. So you're not making a liar of me.
No, I'm not.
Not only did Tor release a chapter this week, but we also got the US cover reveal for Rhythm of War. So there's going to be some Rhythm of War spoilers, and we may even touch a little bit on some Mistborn.
Oh, yes. Right. Yes. Right. Yes, we will. I'm the Cognitive Shadow producer, Ghost Eric, and I want to talk about the cover, too. So I see it just at the same time as you all.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the cover a little bit.
And I'm going to put this over everyone's faces so you can see it, because I didn't want to make another overlay. So, yeah.
That works perfectly fine.
Great.
Everybody needs to see us looking at the cover.
Yeah. Yep. What do you think?
So on this cover, we got Shallan as our main cover person this time. She's standing in Shadesmar in front of a crystal-looking tree. You can see that strange sky in the background, and then in the background there's also the ocean with all the beads. You can kind of see that there. And then on the back cover, or on the left side of the composition, we have Adolin.
Yeah.
And we have that confirmed that it's Adolin.
It is Adolin, yes.
It is.
It's no one else. It's just Adolin. And he's got a sword that is not a shard blade. And he's kind of kneeling in the foreground. And then in the background, we have this kind of strange looking obelisk or monolith or something that's completely black and very smooth.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. Looks like something cryptic-y, though. To me.
I guess it would be, shape-wise, it should be something cryptic-y, but we know from the Amazon blurb that they're going to Lasting Integrity and as the envoy to Honor Spren. So maybe it's Lasting Integrity and a fortress of the Honor Spren as well. Something like that. But that also explains why Shallan and Adolin are together in Shadesmar on the cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that they the obsidian is shaped like waves. I think that's really cool. Yeah. I like that. That's a part I really like. I think the sky is cool. It's not black, but
Yeah, it kind of threw me off at first being bluish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of used to some games where it's nighttime in the game, but it's not actually black because you actually need it to be illuminated in the composition.
True.
So I'm that doesn't really bother me personally. Shallan looks weird to me. Her face looks like she's 13. I cannot get over that. And she's the most prominent thing. Wayland's done a better Shallan that looked way better in the Words of Radiance end page. I don't know why this one looks so weird to me.
I actually feel like her face in this one seems more to me like Shallan than the other one. The other one looked a little more mature.
Well, if anything, if they should be reversed, right? Shallan and the Shattered Plains should be the less mature one, and this should be the more mature one, because we've had a lot of time to mature. She is still young, but I don't know about 13 young.
I really like her Hava, though. It's kind of
the outfit's
good. Yeah, that's really, really nice.
Why is she posed that way?
For both her and Adolin are really the sort of fractally designs they have on their clothing. So it's
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. People have noted the leaves on the right are kind of fractally designed and stuff, and that's pretty cool.
Mm.
And the crystalline structure is kind of reminiscent of some of the pattern drawings in Way of Kings, I think, the first drawings.
Yeah. I must say I do much prefer the Bulgarian cover, though. I think that one just matches my notion of Shadesmar much more.
I wonder if they got a similar brief. I know that they were required to have Shallan on the cover, but I wonder what Michael Wayland was told compared to what they were given. How much more detail he was given.
Maybe he may have got more notes, but it seems like the core prompt, right? The UK one is Shallan in vaguely Shadesmar, but like they really abstract it, right?
Yeah, I really didn't like that one. I normally really like the style of those ones, but
Jess really likes those, my fiance. But I don't know. When I think of crystal trees, I don't think the crystals are at the base of the tree. I don't know. So the Bulgarian cover kind of matches my perception of it a little better. But I do like the waves, and the beads are pretty cool, quite subtle. But
yeah.
So I like the
I don't think you would
sky
see
and stuff.
each individual bead though, from that far away.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the orange crystals. It's
they
just kind of weird to me.
And I agree, like the way I imagine it, and that's also close to the Bulgarian cover, it's that Shadesmar is mostly barren, and you have a little bit of a few trees here and there, but this Shadesmar looks very lush, actually. Like we have vegetation all around, and I mean, it's just a different interpretation. And I mean, it does look gorgeous, this cover, but it doesn't necessarily match my imagination.
The scenery's cool.
Yeah,
I just wish Shallan wasn't on it.
It does look like a forest out there.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Don't be confused by Adolin having white hair there. It's
just the lighting.
The lighting, and actually this version of the cover that we see here or that we have received is not yet 100% finished. It's actually like one of the final versions, but especially Adolin, I think Waylon has said that he has to put some finishing touches on him, so we might get him to be a little more blonde, maybe.
Yeah, and Michael Whalen's Twitter account, I guess, is run by his assistant. They clarified that rainbow effect underneath Adolin's sword is actually just a property of making the ground look like obsidian, so like kind of like oil slick or something, rather than being anything like awakening or anything like that.
The amount of conversation on Discord about that was very amusing to me.
So we have that clarified now. So that's good.
And his sword is also just an ordinary sword. It's not anything special. Like he obviously can't take a shard blade into Shadesmar, so he has to make do with a normal sword. Yeah.
Michael Whalen also clarified that on the Way of Kings cover, it's not Dalinar, which I think Brandon has told many people that it's Dalinar, but like maybe just a miscommunication. I think Brandon really likes Michael Whalen stuff, and I can't say I'm the biggest fan. I don't know. Like it's fine.
Didn't he say that he kind of fanboyed, so he wasn't gonna like try and micromanage him or anything, because he's just
that's fine.
So happy that he's doing the covers.
Brand is always super glad that he gets Michael to do the covers, and so he always says like he can't demand more of him because he's already doing the covers for him. So
it's a very traditional fantasy cover, and
definitely
I don't know if that's my favorite, but Shadesmar looks
it has traditional elements, but it's kind of otherworldly, almost alien. So it's got different aspects that kind of make it stand out from a traditional fantasy sword and sorcery kind of cover.
Yeah, it definitely captures the otherworldly aspect really well, I think.
Yeah,
which I like.
Do you like this one? What's your ranking for the covers?
Oh, I know my ranking.
For me, this one is probably actually my favorite so far, but maybe just because I like Shadesmar and I don't know, I just like the depiction of it. But then like the color scheme also really is quite striking, because the other ones were very orange heavy, I feel.
That's true.
We mostly get rock and that's it. So I like the switch up here to be mostly blue basically. So
Yeah, I agree. I like Way of Kings a lot, but I think that this one's starting to kind of edge it out. Just when you look at the very front cover, so it's just like the right hand side of the picture, there's a really nice divide in the orange and blue, which is mirrored from the storms in the first two books.
True.
And it's got my favorite character on the front. I really like Shallan.
I really like Shallan.
I mean, I do have some problems with the anatomy of it a little bit. She's got a really long neck and stuff, but besides that, I'm very happy with the design of this one. I think it might be my favorite.
I think Way of Kings is tied with Words of Radiance for me. I know a lot of people do not like the Kaladin face in the American Words of Radiance cover. I don't care about that. I care for pretty storms, And that's what I go off of. And the Words of Radiance cover has a bluish storm, and so I think it looks awesome. And Zeth looks cool in the full art of the Words of Radiance cover. So those two are tied. This one is third. And my least favorite is Oathbringer, because I'm sorry, like the full art of that cover is cool, but the cover of the book itself, where it's like it's Yasna in front of a wall, I'm like, no,
it's kind of flat.
No. So like at least this one's much more interesting, but I cannot get over how weird Shallan looks to me. Like that that is just not how she looks. 13, and my fiance said she looks like she's Nancy Drew, and I'm like, I can't get that out of my brain. And so I'm not a big fan of Shallan.
Yeah, her pose is a little cheesy. Like, ooh, do I see a clue?
Like, if it was just the scenery, I'd probably like it a lot more, but the people just actually lower it for me. So,
yeah.
So those would be my rankings. I have some people like, I love the Oathbringer cover, but I do not share that enthusiasm, let's say. It's a wall.
I like it. All right.
All right, well, time for me to shut up while you guys talk about the chapters. Have fun, guys!
Bye, see ya.
I'm still here, but...
So let's actually start talking about the chapters again. And like last week, we already had to go back to the annotations that Bren is now doing for these chapters, because he doesn't get up or isn't even up yet when we record these. So we don't have a chance to.
He's not awake before noon. That is for sure.
We don't have a chance we haven't had a chance to get his comments yet. So this one again is for last week, and he basically said that the entire fight scene that we had there, like we had the very long chase in the air of Kaladin and Leshwi, and he actually considered cutting it completely from the book, but he decided against that because it has a lot of nice callbacks to how, like, we have these lurks there, these creatures, and it's a nice callback to Kaladin's flashbacks and Tiernan and things like that. And while it would have prolonged, like, we already had a lot of fighting in the beginning of this book, so he didn't really want to prolong that. But instead, Brandon opted for just trimming down the descriptions of all the fighting, so it was a lot more terse in that, and he wanted to focus on Kaladin as a character there. So that sort of explains why we don't get very long descriptions of how or what all the maneuvers that Leshwi and Kaladin are doing are, and like what happens around them. So it's a lot more focused on how Kaladin deals with it as a character, I think.
And you know what you get in this chapter? More Kaladin fighting.
Why do you say like that? It's exciting.
There's just a lot of fighting is all I'm saying. So I see what Brandon's saying with considering cutting it, because it's just like Kaladin fight.
He also mentioned if he did this as like a movie, this scene would be cut, because we don't need repetitive fighting action sequences. But he used it also as a mechanism to kind of show Kaladin and his team working together, and a little bit of his development as a Windrunner and stuff. So I feel like he kind of exercised his artistic liberty to add it in, and he decided to just keep it.
And I think even with like chapter 7 now, he didn't really focus so much on the fighting, and instead on like the effects of what we'll see when we get to the part of that chapter.
Yeah, which we'll discuss later. All right. Well, I guess we can just get into the chapter. So again, Rhythm of War spoilers for this chapter.
No way.
So we start with our epigraph. This epigraph says basically zinc and brass wires threaded through the gemstone via drilled holes can control the spren's expression strength. Zinc strengthens and brass dampens the spren's power. The drill holes have to be placed carefully so as not to fracture the gemstone and release the spren.
I have a big smile on my face.
Very cool. And I really want to just talk about that right now.
Talk about it.
Actually, yeah.
Do it.
So, what do you think?
Well, we have zinc and brass there, so Allomancy much. So
right?
it's fancy, and like it really fits. Like we have Sync is the writing metal, and it's the pulling metal in the emotional elements, and so this one strengthens. And even like she talks about how the spren manifests more strongly. So you can literally say the Sync is sort of pulling the spren more into the physical, maybe, or like it's pulling on the effect and strengthening it, and Brass has the opposite effect. So yeah, really strong connection there.
Yes, I won't repeat what you said, but with the drilling into the gemstone, that almost sounds like hemalurgy to me, like where they have to put the wire mesh into the gemstone, where zinc is fortifying the emotion, brass is commenting it, or not emotion, but the expression of the spren. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that's what my first initial impression was, like, why do they have to drill the wire mesh into the stone? And then they mentioned that they have to be careful not to crack the stone to release the spren. So there's like a lot of little tidbits in there.
I think that's a very good comparison actually with hemalurgy, because sort of, I guess you could say that you maybe sort of have to insert the metal into the identity or like spirit web sort of the spren. So yeah, I like that. Like,
and I'm always looking at the hemalurgic reaction of zinc, and that fits. It steals the power, basically. But when I was looking at the brass, it didn't quite work in my mind, because brass, what does brass do? It steals components of other ferrochemical abilities, storing and stuff. So I don't know if that really holds any weight, but that was my first impression, which is what this episode is about.
Yeah, like I think just the thematic connection alone is like pretty strong there, and that it sort of makes sense that I guess the emotional elemency works on the cognitive aspect mostly of the target, and this also maybe sort of works with maybe convincing the spren to come or to express itself more strongly, something like that. So it would really fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the epigraph. So we're gonna just split it up into Shallan, and later on we have Kaladin's point of view.
20 minutes in, let's start the chapter.
Let's start.
Great.
Hey, we had a lot to talk about.
We did.
So we have Vale speaking with Iali. It just picks up right where it left off, and she's trying to get information and the evidence against her. Obviously Vale wanting to kill her, but the other two don't want to, so they decide to just keep going on with their original plan. And then she partially summons Pattern just in case, to give them a direction, and then she doesn't let him coalesce into her shard blade. And then Shallan, Vale, and Radiant, they have to have an accord, and they call it the Three. And they do that in order to have any kind of action, to take any action. So Iali reveals that she actually didn't set a trap for Shallan, but she was actually expecting the Ghostbloods to be setting a trap for herself. They drink all these various alcohols, and Iali is using them as a metaphor for her plans regarding Gavinar, the Ghostbloods, and even Shallan, who I think Iali is thinking she's just an anonymous assassin from the Ghostbloods. And then as Iali finally accuses Shallan of being a Ghostblood assassin, she asks her to search for the rarest vintage, in quotes. And then Adolin and his men burst in, they arrest Iali, and you hear shouting in the background, and Iali is falling to the floor, dying. So then near the end of the chapter, after the next point of view, Iali dies in their custody, and apparently she's poisoned by Blackbane. And then Shallan takes on the challenge of searching Iali's possessions for clues, like Nancy Drew. So
her last ideal is I am Nancy Drew.
It's going to be another personality.
Yeah, hidden fourth persona. Yeah, I think it's the first time we have Shallan or like the Three referring to herself as the Three here, and I find it really cool. And it also is interesting that she doesn't refer to herself as they. She refers to herself as she. So it's not like it's really one entity at that point, the three. And it's also later in the chapter when like she's actually in a higher stress situation. She actually thinks as the three. So it's not one of them taking action, but all of them at once in some way, or just one of them. Sort of like they merge at that point, and I find it really striking and cool how Brandon portrays it there, and like sort of also fluidly switches to the three at that point.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually kind of a good step in her actually coming to terms with her issues, because she's not letting one or another take over. She's actually forcing all these personalities to agree to something before they actually take action or do anything. So I'm thinking maybe it's just her way of being in control while still, siphoning out different jobs to different personalities.
Yeah, definitely. And I just really, really liked how the Brandon did it here, and you can see that he really tries hard to portray it accurately.
Yeah, definitely going to see a lot of that with her, I can tell. When Pattern comes into her mind and starts talking, he knows who is in charge at the moment, which I thought was kind of interesting. He talks about Vale specifically rather than Shallan.
And I also noticed that, and I wonder whether that's something he only does when he becomes a blade, because they sort of have this, they communicate telepathically at that point, basically, or whether that's something he always has, and it's sort of just the nature of their bond, that they know that of each other instinctively. And something else that also I think we had the first time here in this chapter is that apparently the Spren can tell where their radiant is by partially being summoned. Right? Yeah, basically. So that's
I thought that was a really neat thing. Because she starts to summon and then she doesn't fully, and that just is a way of her signaling to Pattern where they are. I think that was already established ahead of time as kind of a signal to them. So I thought that was a really neat use of her abilities.
Definitely going to come in handy later at some point, I guess. It's a really cool ability to have.
And speaking of Adolin, I love their relationship still. I was worried at first with him having to deal with her other personalities and how he's not technically in love with Vale, or but he loves Shallan so much, and he's like her solid rock. He kind of grounds her, and when he sees her, he asks, "Which one are you?" before he hugged her. So it was almost like he treats the different personalities as different people. He doesn't want to act untoward towards Vale or Radiant by hugging them inappropriately or anything, but he wants to hug Shallan, his wife. I thought that was a really nice little touch about their relationship.
Yeah, and it really goes to show how accepting they are of each other, because they can do it. That's basically in public where they do it, or at least with others around. So it's not like, okay, we need to keep this down low and not tell everybody that Adolin is basically married to 3 people, sort of. It just shows that their relationship is really working for both of them. And we know that Adolin also sort of treats Vale as a drinking buddy, and so I can see that having evolved even more in the intervening year, and Adolin coming to grips with it very well. Yeah, it's cool.
And I wonder what at this point in their relationship, if he knows anything about the Ghostbloods or her secret, identities and stuff, because it doesn't seem to me like she's come clean about that to him. Because when she stops him and he says, no, I'll search Iali's rooms, it's like she knows about the Ghostbloods and she wants to protect him from knowledge about it or something like that.
Yeah, that's...
And I mean, it's been a year since they've been married. So.
Yeah, I wish they had shared that, but I can't imagine that Shallan did, and it probably will have some negative consequence at some point, because that's a pretty huge secret to keep.
Yeah, but then again, we also thought that him killing Sadeas was going to have all these negative consequences. So,
yeah, but speaking of the Ghostbloods and Ayla at this point, she seems to be quite aware of things, and she knows the Ghostbloods and like how they she thinks that apparently they killed the other High Princess, and so she's much more in the know than I had thought.
Yeah, she definitely seems to know a lot about their motives. And she talked about Gavilar seeing other worlds, which I don't know what she's referring to, if she's referring to like the different realms, or is she talking about like legitimate other worlds, like the other planets, or if it's just, Braze or something like that. So, and then when she scoffs about the Ghostbloods just wanting to have power, she's like, what is power? Like, that's such a vague thing. She seems to know more than Shallan knows about it.
And what also, she talked about Gavilar, and she also mentioned Ristaris there, which I think it's the first mention of him since quite a while.
Long time.
And Sons of Honor that we have seen before her, they didn't make that good of an impression as like a secret organization who have their stuff together, but she definitely seems to be like, she knows about Gavilar and what he did, and she gives a much more informed impression and really makes me think that the other Sons of Honor really were just people who have no clue at all whatsoever, and like a joke to even her. And like she says, they think I'm the true queen of Alethkar and things like that, when she actually supports Gavinor, apparently, which also probably is just her scheming. But yeah, it's quite a stark contrast between her and the other Sons of Honor.
I just want to say I apologize if you can hear my dog. And she's pretty quiet, but
your dog is very excited about Rhythm of War.
She really liked this chapter. I wanted to say something too. If I was in Shallan's place, that would be the next step that I would want to do in this investigation. After she searches Ayla's rooms, that's who I would go to, Ristaris. I would maybe try to see who's trying to assassinate him, or try and see what he knows, stuff like that.
Do you guys want to remind people who Ristaris is and what we know about Ristaris?
I don't know very much about Ristaris.
I'll tell you, I wrote the Ristaris article on the Coffermind. So,
there you go. We have a resident expert.
So, I wrote Ristaris and Thydakar's article. It's like, there's mentioned like 3 times. Great. Ristaris actually advised Amaram to take the shards from Kaladin in Way of Kings. And Mraize, like in that scene, Amaram's like, yes, Ristaris is right. I need to do this. So that Ristaris was like advised Amaram to do that. And Mraize called the Sons of Honors Ristaris' cronies. And things. So that's about it, really.
That's what the big connection is.
I don't think we got anything on Ristaris in
no. Like, we don't even know the gender. Like, it could be a woman. So who knows?
That's true. Well, I mean, except Sons of Honor, but Well, that doesn't need to be.
There were women in the cultists.
Well, that's true. That's certainly.
And
true.
we like Gavilar talks to at the feast. He also talks to women, and so that who are probably part of the organization. So
Ristaris may have originally brought Gavilar into the Sons of Honor. So.
Oh right, yeah. Is he? He's also mentioned. Like Gavilar mentions him.
Yes, Gavilar thinks that either Ristaris or Thydakar was going to kill him, and I think he was like, "Oh, Ristaris, that doesn't make any sense." If I remember correctly. But then he thought like Thydakar was more likely, and.
Anyway, that's who Ristaris is, and what I also found interesting is like the Ayla was poisoned here, and it actually was the three's intention to kill her at first, but they decided against it. So the Ghostbloods, for one, have contingency plans in place to deal with Ayala because they want her gone. And it also shows that they don't really fully trust Shallan yet to do her job, basically. Which,
Yeah, and it looks like they were trying to make it look like a suicide because my first impression was that, oh, she killed herself because she was getting captured. But then they said, it doesn't work that fast when you ingest it. It actually works faster if it's injected into the bloodstream. And so Shallan was thinking, can I find even like a tiny needle mark or something? So I thought that was kind of interesting. Someone close to her must have dosed her with that.
And I mean, it's kind of hard for her to find out who it was, or if it was someone in her close circle, because they are light viewers. So who could have done it? Yeah. But something else that I thought, that's just an aside, which I found really interesting. It's the first instance of this curse. Nails nuts is what one of the the deserters uses. So yeah, apparently every herald gets something. Yeah.
That's the best.
We see instances of Shallan's little Lightweaver club, which is neat. So she's got them being able to put up, a mask for each other where they look like they're guards, and then even Adolin was like, well, we could just turn Ayala into a rug or something so we can sneak her out. I thought that was kind of a nice little nod to see how far they've actually gotten in that order.
Also, viewers, I apologize. There may be some flickering. I don't know. Discord's fine, but my capture software is apparently not. I don't know. I'll see what happens in editing. So I'm sorry about that. I didn't change anything. So whatever.
Okay, that's about all we have to say right now about Shallan's point of view. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about, but in the interest of time, let's move on to Kaladin's point of view now. And so we left off Kaladin chasing, or he saw that the town manor was on fire, and Leshri let him go after the teleporting fuse, who also appeared again there. And so in this chapter now, Kaladin approaches the manor, and in front of it, he challenges the fuse, but the singer wants to fight him inside and says oh, come inside, fight me there, Windrunner, where you can't use your powers, which goes to show that he really is not interested in an honorable fight, instead wants as much of an advantage as possible. And apparently the fuse has access, or the singers have access to a fabrial that can tamper with the Radiant's abilities, and it seems to be a fabrial powered by void light. And they use it at that point, and Kaladin notices that he can't use his powers anymore, and he also can't summon Syl as his blade anymore. The fuse apparently thought that would be enough to take away Kaladin's prowess, but of course Kaladin was a skilled fighter even before he became a Windrunner, so he makes quick work of the regular singer soldiers with the fuse, and then he also anticipates, the fuse starts teleporting again, and Kaladin, of course, at this point knows already how his teleporting works. So he anticipates, or he follows where the red ribbon goes, and anticipates him manifesting again, and strikes him right in the neck between two plates of carapace. And so the fuse is dead until the next Everstorm, at least. And then we also get Lift appearing. She apparently was around, and she then deactivates the fabrial, and they can use their powers again immediately. And Lift also says that somebody in beggar's clothing was abducted or was taken into the building, which Kaladin realizes is Roshone, and he decides to go looking for him, even though he sort of hates him quite a bit. So yeah, that's about it for this chapter. What did you think, Danielle?
Well, that fused guy, the big demon-looking fused guy, is a jerk. And he
I'm shocked.
totally wants the upper hand in fighting. Like, not only, okay, he says, oh, Kaladin, come inside and we'll fight without you being able to fly away. And so Kaladin follows him in, and then he tricks him by using this the void light Fabrial, and forces him to lose his spear and all of his abilities as well. And he's taunting him and stuff, but he had no idea that Kaladin was already an amazing fighter and very strategic in fighting even before he spoke his oaths or anything. So kind of turned the tables on him. That didn't work out for him so well, but it really shows that this particular order is so vastly different from the heavenly ones.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, I can't wait to see him appear again, to see what other tricks he pulls off to sort of fight against Kaladin in a disadvantaged battle, basically. And I can sort of imagine him doing ever more ridiculous attempts to get Kaladin to finally kill Kaladin, and never pulls it off. But yeah, and at some point they hopefully figure out a way to kill them indefinitely, and maybe then that.
Yeah, you can just postpone it until they can figure that out. Mm-hmm. It was actually kind of funny how quick Kaladin actually defeated him, and I was like, oh no, please don't make this like a joke thing, like the Sons of Honor. Oh, he's just he's just going to keep coming back like a joke. But I think that he's just going to keep trying more and more tricks to try and box Kaladin in and keep him as powerless as possible so that he can fight.
Yeah, and I think at some point the Radiants would also just say, okay, don't kill him. Maybe they can find some way to restrain him differently. Like, I guess, or I suppose an aluminum box would work quite well for him.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll do something like that and sort of keep him as prisoner and get to question him. Like, that would be a really neat arc, I think.
Yeah, and then speaking of these new Fabrials, they are super dangerous. And I mean, we haven't really seen too many like this. I can't think of any. So there must be really, really new, and possibly even like prototypes of new Fabrials. But I was just thinking when I was reading it, could you imagine them using that in the air when they're fighting Windrunners or something? Like using to cause the environment to do damage to them instead of just having to fight them. It's not an honorable way of fighting. I will say that.
That actually makes me wonder, like, he did have to bait him inside, and maybe right now the Fabrial isn't advanced enough and it's sort of limited in range, and he would work outside, but Kaladin would it would be easy to avoid it again. So maybe it has a very limited range at this point, and they're still trying to figure it out. Yeah, but definitely a very dangerous weapon. And like the Amazon blurb also mentions, like how Fabrial's arms race is underway now, and I think this really is like the kickoff. Now we're talking Fabrials.
Yeah, like they have the fourth bridge, but look at what we got. And then it's also interesting because it doesn't work like the spear. It doesn't pull the stormlight out of them, because the Edge Dancer, Godeki, he didn't die from his injuries. He just wasn't able to heal himself. But then as soon as the Fabrial was turned off by Lift, he was able to use his stormlight that he had to heal himself. So,
but I think like we saw it prevents surge binding for the Radiant, or for Kaladin. He can't summon Syl anymore as a blade, and he also, like, the way Godeki, it says that he right at the moment that the Fabrial was deactivated, he sharply inhaled his stormlight and then could heal again. So it also, or I think it also sort of stops stormlight from being able to, or like the Radiant from being able to inhale stormlight. And so Kaladin also describes it, the moment the Fabrial is activated, as he immediately knew that he couldn't use his powers anymore, even though he didn't even have to try. And he sort of described it as a smothering feeling. So
yeah, but he also said that he didn't need to breathe because he still had his stormlight in him. So he didn't need to breathe out and release the stormlight, but he also didn't need to breathe in and get oxygen. So that was kind of weird that he was able to use the stormlight for that.
And what the smothering feeling sort of makes me think that maybe somehow the Fabrial works to sort of, I don't know, isolate the Radiant from the outside world in a little bit. So all the stuff they still have inside, like they can heal with Stormlight still, but they can't magically affect the outside world or connect to it. So, and not capital C connect, but they just have a hard time doing stuff, I guess, with their magic.
And it makes me wonder, because we saw Lift there as well. Speaking of Lift, I'm very happy with how she acted in this chapter. And she's taking orders. She's anticipating what Kaladin needs her to do. So I was really happy with that. She seems to have matured in this year. I wonder how the Fabrial affected her and her Spren Wendell. How she can use him as a foothold or something. I wonder if she was still able to do that with him when the Fabrial was on.
Yeah, right. Like,
because I'm assuming he's still not going to be summoned as a weapon or anything for her. So I don't think we would see her trying to summon him as a weapon. But I wonder how the Fabrial, because she has this weird thing going on. So I wonder how the Fabrial affects her with that.
She's more in the cognitive realm. So that's, and now I also wonder whether she would have still been able to basically eat something and turn it into Stormlight, or that's also something that would have been blocked by this Fabrial.
Well, we will probably find out, because they were able to take the Fabrial and bring it to Navani. So hopefully we see more about that.
Looking forward to Navani just losing her mind over it and oh my god, I need to find out how this works. But speaking of the Fabrial in general, like at the beginning, we see when they activate it, we see that the void light glow sort of fades away. And it makes me wonder whether does the Fabrial does it drain immediately and just have a prolonged effect, or does it need sustained void light to work? Because it keeps working up until Lift turns it off again. So, wondering how it works fuel-wise, I guess.
And I wonder what kind of Spren is inside it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be a void Spren of some sort, probably. But yeah, don't know. And I guess it's also now interesting to guess which metal it might be using. Something else I found interesting about the Fabrial is that it did not affect the fused there, so he still was able to use his abilities. So either it somehow specifically targets humans, I guess, or maybe it just it's a fundamental difference between their powers. That could also be.
You saying that gave me an idea. Navani could make a reverse Fabrial with Stormlight and use it to dampen void light.
If that works, that would be
if awesome. She figures out how it works and stuff. But that just gave me an idea. And that's what an arms race is, right? Someone comes up with a new weapon and then you have to counteract it with your own, and then it just kind of escalates from there. So I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, I actually liked that quite a bit. So I mean, we are 7 chapters in right now and already have seen so much new stuff. So the Fabrial stuff is going to be totally wild, this book. So something else that I noticed about this is that Syl can still manifest normally, mostly. She can still fly around and be in the physical realm. So it really only seems to affect sort of the human magic connection, I guess, would be a way to put it.
Yeah, I think maybe that has to do with the smothering feeling that you were talking about. Maybe it puts a shroud around them that forces them to not be able to use their magic externally,
some way.
Something like that. Yeah. But the Spren are not affected by it, except that they can't take the shape of a shard blade. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, no. We let Neverni figure it out, and then we say, "Oh yeah, I thought it worked that way all along." Cool.
And then with Kaladin, after all of that happened, he is still struggling with his ideals. He's struggling he has to remember and repeat his oaths in order just to go and save Roshon, which I don't blame him. Roshon is directly responsible for Tien. Like, he's a horrible person. He didn't let Kaladin go in his place. He wanted Tien to be in that position. So Kaladin has to get over that in order to stay in line with his oaths. And he struggles with it still.
Yeah, I think it's sort of in line with how we have that one Gemstone archive Windrunner who says like he's not sure whether he'll actually ever achieve his fourth ideal and stuff like that. It really makes me think that maybe, especially the Windrunners, because they have this very externally focused ideals, that they might have had a lot of radiance at the third ideal, but many didn't progress farther because it's just a very huge burden to sort of take care of everyone around you. And like, it's very understandable that Kaladin is struggling with his fourth ideal when even his third one is already, or like all the previous ones are causing him internal strife.
But, you know, he did go into the fire, into the burning building. So, I mean, he's doing the right thing to keep his ideals and keep his bond with Syl and everything. But he has still got a lot to deal with. And I'm sure that a lot of this has to do with like him having to accept it so that, you know, he's having all these nightmares and everything. So he's definitely struggling a lot with this whole thing.
Yeah. I think that's about it.
Yeah. I guess that is all we have to say about Chapter 7. You can find all of these preview chapters at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Tor.com, and we'll also let you know on 17thshard.com at 9 o'clock when they come out. And please feel free to come and discuss them on our Discord, on our forums, in the comments. We really appreciate it. And that is it. Bye.
Bye.